So it's Sunday. I decided to switch up the calendar a little bit, but before we get started on that, welcome back. Let the learning begin. And I know Sunday isn't normally a school day, and since we're distance learning and we don't have the same number of hours in our school day together, stretching our school days out over more days, since we're not using as much time or compacting the time, is just a good strategy. So whether you actually do this on Sunday or Monday or another day, the practice is really, really, really good. It's very good. So I decided to kind of flip over my board because it seemed so scrunched and I didn't like how the clips were. So I turned it over so part of it's going to look upside down. But it puts my lines on the top and lets my space for writing or thinking and recording all of my very good and important and valuable thoughts. So I want you to do a check-in first. Think mindfully. Where do you fit in the zones? Which zone are you in? And it's not important that you always be in the regulated and ready to learn zone. I mean, that's important, but it's not important that you just say that if you're not really there, because there are strategies we can use to move out of the other zones into the green zone. If you're in the red zone, it's a good idea to separate, maybe run around the yard, maybe jump up and down, punch a stuffed animal or a punching bag if you have one. If you're in the yellow zone, maybe doing some mindful exercises and breathing might help, maybe talking to someone or a special empathetic friend. If you're in the blue zone, breathing, resting, and maybe just attending, not quite so actively. So you just kind of watch, look, listen, and learn, and you don't participate as actively until you're ready to be in the green zone. The beauty of a tape is that you can always go back and do it again another day. So you can sit and listen to the information, and then later you can record it on your own. So make your zone known. Red, yellow, green, blue. I hope you're in the green zone, ready and regulated. And one of my students, when we were doing our class growth and mindful mind shifts, had a really good idea that had to do with what she'd done at Easter time. Now, she'd had an Easter egg, but we didn't all have Easter eggs. So she used an actual egg. And her mindful mind shift was crack the egg. So she would crack, and I do crack on my head, crack, open, put back together. So it's crack, open, put back together. And you take a breath in. Hold it on the crack. Oh, wait. I got it wrong. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, so it's crack, open. So crack, open, put back together. There's no holding on this one. Crack. Now, if you don't have an egg, you can just use your hands. So you pretend to hold an egg. So it's crack, open, put back together. Crack, open, put back together. And you can also twist it. And you could add a step where you hold it if you want to. But that's a good mind shift that you can use, a little growth mindful-based practice that you can use to kind of regulate yourself. When you're working, if you get a little, you could feel some tension because you're holding your body kind of tight, or you feel kind of stressed because you have other things to do, or you're feeling kind of distracted, you can easily just crack the egg. And you make the mind shift happen where you crack it, and then you breathe in and you open it, and you push it back together, and you can hold it apart, and then push it back together. So there's a lot of innovative strategies that you can use. And anytime you use an actual real object to do a mind shift, you can always simulate the object. So we call projects things where we bring in and we make something, and I'll share some of those on later videos. But even with a project, you can do a project simulation, which makes it a practice. So you can take projects and push them into practices. And I suppose you could take a practice and push it into a project. We just haven't done that, but you could. All right, so let's focus on the calendar, and we're working with what's called a blank slate, literally. Now, slate long ago was a substance, a natural substance found in the earth. It kind of feels like a rock or stone, and it's very smooth, and it like breaks off. It feels kind of like glass in your hands. It's thin, but slate could be written on by a certain kind of rock or stone that looked like chalk. You could also use chalk on it. So when they used slate originally, it was just a piece of something from nature, and they used something from nature. And then we innovated that, and now we're using whiteboards. So it's not really slate, but when you say a blank slate and you're referring to that, what that means is there's nothing on it. We're going to add something to it. So we're going to start with the past. So the past is past. The past is behind us. It's already over. So yesterday, I need my little face space. And since it's Sunday, I'm going to make it grace. We're going to go to church later in our bedroom, in our bed, snuggle under our covers. It's kind of a fun way to go to church, although I miss being with the people and in the building and corporately worship. But church and school and bed, there's something it kind of displaces some of the sadness, because it's kind of cool to do that too. New normal. Yes, capital Y-E-S, like yes, T-E-R, and the chunk of day, D-A-Y. Yesterday, face was, and it has the A and the S like in past, but it's not was, it's was. So this is the of was, like going around. Yesterday was, I'm going to reference my smart cards, Saturday. Hey, that's funny, look. Yesterday. Saturday. I was trying to put the T on the beginning just like it is in Saturday. 3 syllables, and they have the same ending sound, and they kind of sound sing-songy the same. Yesterday was capital S-A-T-U-R-D-A-Y. Just a telling sentence declarative, so we just stop it with a period. So if yesterday was Saturday and it's in the past, then today is. It's in the present. Capital P-R-E-S-E-N-T. I sent you a present. I'm making those capitals just because I'm kind of labeling the sentence, and I don't want them to drag down so that there's overlap, but there's not a right or wrong. It's just I want you to get the concept of past is over, present is here now, it's with us, future is ahead of us. So if yesterday was Saturday, then today, capital T-O-D-A-Y, face space, is Saturday, last day of the week. We go up to the first day of the week. Remember? Sunday is the first day of the week. Let's check. This is S. We should see an S right behind it unless my cards are out of order again. It is. And the only 2 days that start with S are Saturday and Sunday. So if this is Saturday, process of elimination, we know automatically that this has to be what? Sunday. Crowd goes wild. So now we have support materials. So this is going to support me in writing here. I can also reference my smart chart, but really what I want to do is reach into my automaticity, see if I can find it on the back of my eyelids in my own schema. Sunday, it's a compound word. 2 little words that get together make a big word. Sunday, like the sun and the day. Today is capital S-U-N, and I know the chunk of day. I'm a day expert now, period. Yesterday was Saturday, today is Sunday, tomorrow. So tomorrow is in the future. I think I'm going to change present. I think I'm going to make present green. I like that better. Present. Oh, my T. Make sure I cross it. And then I think I'm going to make the future blue. Oh, and look at how I did a capital. I'm going to erase that. Capital F-U-T-U-R-E. I want you to write it too. That's a weird word. You really do have to take a picture and make a tape in your smart brain, because it should be the digraph CH because it's ch, but it isn't there. So take a picture. Future. And since I made those two capital, I had to be consistent in my rule, and I wasn't. That's why I erased it. What do you know about me? If I am awake, I am making a mistake. What do we know about mistakes? They are expected, especially from me. They should always be inspected, looked closely at, and then finally, maybe the most important one, they should always be respected, because that's how we learn. They help us to grow. So what I'm learning from this is to be very mindful and attentive when I'm working, because I got a little mindless. I was talking and not paying attention, and then I realized two things. First, I hadn't capitalized the future, and second, I hadn't modeled it for you. And there was a really good learning point in there for both of us that I wanted you to see, that it sounds like CH, but it isn't a CH. So you really have to look closely at words, and then you have to put them into automaticity, because this is not a word you can sound out. So really, this would be what's called a sight word. You can't sound it out. Any word you cannot sound out is a sight word. You have to know it from sight, so you have to bank it into your memory, or you won't write it correctly. Now, if you spelled it phonetically with a CH, you could read it and anyone else could. But if you were taking a spelling test, it would be wrong. And really, we want to spell just like we read letters combined together in an order that makes sense in words and books. So our goal is for us to automatically adapt to and adopt the universal recognition, understanding, and acceptance of a word. That's all. It's a social norm, all right? Okay, so tomorrow, it's a capital Tomorrow. Tomorrow. I do it that way rather than breaking down my syllables, because it's sing-songy and it's easier to remember. Tomorrow. Tomorrow will be WILL, face. So if today is Sunday, tomorrow will be the first day of the school week, which is Monday. Capital M-O-N, and that's the love, and D-A-Y. Great. Once I know the chunk day ends in, it ends the same, and every word ends the same with day. Once I know that chunk, all I have to now remember is the onset, the beginning part of the word. That makes it a whole lot easier. Once you know, hey, I know a chunk in this word, then you only have to focus on the part that isn't as obvious in your smart brain, and eventually it will be. When every time we come to information, we see it as brand new information and disconnected from all the other information, it taxes our brain. So we want our brain to be highly efficient and effective, and the way we do that is we look for patterns. You know, like a heat-seeking missile, we're a pattern-seeking missile. Our brain is looking for patterns. So we've seen the pattern of day. Once we can lock that pattern in, it makes this less information for our brain to have to remember. 3 little bits of information is a lot different than remembering 6. And if we put D-A-Y as one piece of information, even those 3 letters, our brain sees it as one piece of information. It collapses it together. And then we have to get this S-U-N. But once we do it sing-songy, S-U-N-D-A-Y. Even though there are 6 letters, what our brain says is it's 2 pieces of information. Our brains are phenomenal. And the sooner we start learning mnemonics and we play with the way that our brain encodes information, the faster we build schematics for learning. Because this, as difficult as it might be every day, you think, gosh, we do this every day. I should already know it. Yes. And no, because it's difficult to learn new things. But once you learn these things, your brain will take how it learned this and it'll move it over to learning other things. That's the beauty of the brain. Mind-blowing. Well, not really. Not literally. Keep your brain in your safe school. All right, so now I think I want to do kind of a notebooking log. So I'm going to draw a picture of today. Now, my class today is going to meet. We're going to have a parking lot powwow. We are the TK tribe, and we're going to have a parking lot powwow. So we're going to have a Sunday super power powwow. Now we focus on 10 superpowers. Those are growth mindful superpowers. There aren't only 10 superpowers, but we focus on 10 because we have 10 months, so it's kind of one a month. And then we build them and we practice them and we become mindful about our growth mindful powers so that when we exercise them, we can see really that we are super, not just super smarties. We become superheroes to ourselves and to others. So this month, or this week, what we were focusing on is empathy. Empathy. And for Trifecta, my business, the symbol that we use is a heart. And then we just put some power coming off of it, kind of like light illuminating it. So this represents empathy. There's a lot of other things you could use, but this is an easy enough symbol for me to remember and to draw, and for my little people friends to remember and to draw. So when we think of empathy, what we think about is how we're sensitive to and aware of other people's feelings. And maybe we don't exactly feel the same, but we know how it feels to feel that way. And so we're mindful of it, and maybe we stay in a situation with someone when they're having a hard time, when they're sad, when they're lonely, when they're hurting. Empathy signals something in our brain to say, oh, I know what I see doesn't look like they feel very well. And I don't mean physically well, but I mean emotionally they feel not good. And I can go be with them, and so they can maybe feel a little bit better. Sometimes that's called sorrow shared, like it's halved. You get to give some of it to someone else. Not like they can really take it, but when someone comes and hugs you or sits with you and listens to you and breathes with you, you somehow feel a little better, almost as if they lifted that. That's what empathy is. So I should do my whole sentence, right? We are having a power powwow today. Okay, so that's 7. We are having a power powwow today. Remember, in between each words, there has to be some space. Social distancing. We are, I haven't used R, but I know it's R of star, A-R, and then I know there's a nosy at the end. You can't sound this out either, so this is a sight word. High frequency because it happens in a lot of writing and we say it a lot. Sight word because you can't sound it out. We are having A-A-V, an ing of ring, I-N-G. Remember, I use for a word rather than a because I want to differentiate, know when my students know a as a letter and a as a word. A as a word we say like around. A as a letter we say a. Both are correct. We are having a power. P, ow, 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 ow. O-W, that's the owl of owl. Power, of spider. Pow wow. Oh, look, pow wow is like pow. Pow, P-O-W. Wow is like pow without the P. Wow. Today. And I can lift that right there. And I forgot to, I put a face, but I didn't say it. And so I'm going to draw, oh, it looks like a bus. My SUV is not like a bus. It's a little SUV, but it looks like a bus. Okay, and my rabbit is like in the book, The Rabbit Listened. I actually have a rabbit, and this is his sign, and he has his empathy sign. There's my rabbit, and he's holding the empathy sign. And here are my students. I'm put a 6 here because I have to say 6 feet away. We actually don't get out of the cars because it's better not to. Okay, so yesterday was Saturday. Today is Sunday. Tomorrow will be Monday. I'm showing empathy. That's our superpower. Number 3. Power 3. Empathy. We are having a power powwow today. We meet in a parking lot. That's a lot of alliteration. Parking lot powwow. It's perfect. All right, so I'm going to make sure that you get a chance to see this. Remember, you want to record it in your composition book or your notebook or on a loose piece of paper and then put them together. Go back and read everything that you write. Because our whole goal in reading is to inform us as writers. Remember, all writing is just talk recorded. I just said what we're going to do, and then I sketched some hinky little pictures, kind of to show you it, because that carries the, do you remember? The message, but my words carry the meaning. Good job. Good job, Smarties. You've been listening. I'm not just talking to myself in a hallway. Yay! Kiss your brain. And I'll kiss mine. All right, now I'm going to move this. And we are going to go on our daily, you know what it is, right? Get your backpack. She's going to bear hug. Get out your backpack. Put in a thermos of milk. Don't forget your crackers. Take some peanut butter. That's Dr. Jean. We like her. She's funny. I like her because she's doctor. And my middle name is Jean. Huh. Yeah. Water seeks its level, people. All right, so here's the bus and the bunny. Get on the bus. Honk, honk. People, it's time. It's that time. Your brain needs a little bite. Your schema needs a snack. Climb on the bus to build up your schema. We're taking a learning field trip. I know you want to take me to the nut house. Feed me red jello because that's my favorite flavor. Okay, so let's take a look at some more of my hinky drawings. Rhyme time. Now, if you look at the letters, the way these words are spelled, now listen, just listen. Rhyme time. You would expect to see exactly the same thing in both words because, listen, rhyme time. They sound exactly the same at the ending. The ending part of a word is an R-I-M-E. That's the rhyme. There's called the onset and the rhyme. Teacher words, we just make up stuff when we want everybody to know what we're talking about. We just make something up, so you have to always be listening and paying attention, or you'll miss something and then you won't know what you're doing because we just made it up. Good to be a teacher. Better to be a learner and pay attention to a teacher. Maybe you too can grow up one day and be a teacher and make stuff up too. Okay, so, but if you look at these words, this is where it gets super confusing. This is why English is such a confusing language, especially to what's called second language learners. Because a lot of other languages, they make up rules and then they follow them very clearly. They're very good rule followers. English, no. Kind of makes you wonder. Americans and their rules, right? We just, it's the rule, but it's this way. And then it's this way. And then it's this way. It's like playing a game with my dad. He just makes up the rules as we go. We're going to play this way. Why? Because you just did that? No, because that's a good way to play. And then you win because you just changed the rules, and then I lose again. I'm the loser. Yay. Okay, so I digress, which means I'm bird walking, off topic. Except it's funny, right? Rhyme time. R-H-Y-M-E. Now look at the second word. T-I-M-E. Yikes. There's an I here and an H and a Y here. There's an M at the end of both of these and an E. It looks like me. So it looks like it should be tiny and rhymey, but it's not. So again, you have to look closely and take a picture. Now this word you could sound out because the E goes silent and it gives all of its power over to the I. So the I is long and strong. It's saying its name. It's the second sound that that word makes. So I mark it with the 2. It's just my own markings. Again, more. I'm a teacher. I just make stuff up. But in rhyme, it sometimes Y is a vowel and sometimes it's a consonant. In this word, it's acting like a vowel, which makes it even more confusing. Cannot decide what it is. What it is. We as people sometimes can't decide what we are either. So I guess it's okay for words. It's okay. Sometimes in this, sometimes in that. So, when you look at this word, it is not a word you can sound out. So technically this also becomes a dun 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 sight word. You can hear the and you hear the But the E is giving its power to the Y, and the Y is saying I, and the H isn't saying anything at all. So it looks like Rahaimi, but it's not. It's rhyme time. So, but what rhyming means, all that to explain some very small, simple concept, is that they have the same ending sound. Now, I didn't say they're spelled the same at the ending. Sometimes words are spelled the same at the ending, but not all rhymes are. So when you're deciding if a word rhymes, you don't necessarily look at the letters. You'd have to say them. If all you see are words, you'd have to say the words to hear whether they sound the same at the end. And here we have pictures. We don't even have words. I can add the words, but right now I want you to say what you see and listen closely. If the ending sound is the same, then they rhyme. Now, don't get confused, because sometimes on pages and books and teachers, we're trying to trick you to make sure you're paying attention. And what we do is we put words that start the same, not in the same, together. And then you say, oh yeah, they rhyme. Like if I were to say towel and tree, towel and tree. And you say, yes, they rhyme. Towel and tree and owl don't sound the same, but the beginning sound, tree, towel, that does sound the same. So make sure you are very clear and you listen closely to directions, or you read them very carefully to see what they're saying. And make sure that you know, check and double check. We want the ending, not the beginning sound. All right? So what do you see here? It is a frog. I'm going to label it. I'm not going to sound it out because that would take a long time. And this is it's not a whole tree. It's just a piece of a tree that's broken off. So you call it a log. Frog, log. Would you say that those words rhyme or they do not rhyme? Are they the same at the end or not the same? Frog, log. Bing, 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 bing. They rhyme, so we're going to circle it. They have the og at the end. You'd say that they're in the same word family. Now let's look at this one. I know his body looks funny. Looks like a map. It's not a map. Look at the face. It's a goat. Goat. I had a really hard time drawing that. It's a what? It's on water. This is supposed to be water down here. So this is a goat, and that's a paddle. And there's a sail or flag. So it's a boat. Goat. Boat. Do they have the same ending sound? Goat. Boat. Goat. Boat. Bing, bing, bing. Yes, these words rhyme. They have the same ending sound. They're actually spelled the same too. Goat, boat. Let's try the next one. It's a bear, and this is a fruit. It's not an eggplant. I know it looks kind of like an eggplant, but it's not. Bear. It's green, kind of sweet. The meat can be soft. A little like an apple, but not the same. Pear. Bear. Pear. Same ending sound. Bear. Pear. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. Bear. Pear. Those two words rhyme. Now let's try this one. You put it on your head. You wear it outside. Men, it's a man's. But a woman could wear it too. Hat. Ball. Hat. Ball. Do those two words rhyme? And they do not have the same ending sound. Look. At all. So these two words do not rhyme. And you are the weakest words. Goodbye. They don't rhyme, so we're not going to circle them. And if I was on a regular paper, I might cross them both out, but I don't want to contaminate my markers because we're on house arrest and I might not get any more. till next year, and hopefully I'll be in a classroom then. I'll go to the supply closet. I don't have a supply closet here. I'm not at work. Well, I'm at work, just not at the supply closet. Okay, look at this one. Bat, and this is what a baby wears to keep food and slobber off their shirt. Bib. Bat, bib. Now this is a tricker. Bat, bib. Do they rhyme? Are they the same at the end? They're the same where? At the beginning. They don't rhyme. But it was tricky because they do have the same beginning sound, but we're looking at the ending sound. They do not rhyme. The beginning sound is the same. They both have a B at the beginning. But I didn't ask you, do they have the same beginning sound? My question was, do they end the same? And these two do not. Let's look at this one. Pig, cat. Pig, cat. Look at the ending sound. Listen to it. Pig, cat. Now they are both in the category of animal. But do they end the same? No. Do they have the same beginning sound? No. There is nothing in common with these except that they are both in the same category. Now sometimes you're going to be asked, do these things go together? And would these things go together? Yes. You could find them on a farm. You could also find them in an animal book. So they do go together. Would this kind of hat and that ball go together? No. But could I put a cap? I guess if a man wore one to, or a woman wore one to a baseball game, it could. But if I had a cap, would that go together? Yes, it would. Now, boat and goat. You don't usually see a goat riding in a boat. Did you ever see a goat riding in a boat down by the bay? You hear it in the song. But if I had put the or over here, they wouldn't have rhymed. There would not have been a rhyming set. But the or would go with the boat. And you could see a frog on a log. Frogs do go on a log. So these do go together. You could find them in nature together. And they also do rhyme. So let's go back over our words and let's read them again. Frog, log. These two words, ding, 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 rhyme. Goat, boat. These two words, ding, 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 rhyme. Bear, pear. These two words, ding, 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 rhyme. Hat, ball. These two words do not rhyme. Bat, bib. These two words do not rhyme. They do have the same beginning sound, but they do not rhyme. Pig, cat. These two words do not rhyme. That was awesome. I loved sharing this with you. It was super, super, super fun. Now remember, the way that you can extend the learning, get some traction, action, is by taking these and putting them on little note cards or on pieces of paper, cutting them apart, playing a matching game where you can either turn them over like what's called concentration. You could match the words to the pictures. You could try matching the word cards to the word cards. You could also extend it by finding other things that end the same and drawing a picture of it. You could also play like Pictionary, where you'd have to pick up one and say, you draw the picture, they have to identify it, and then they have to draw something that rhymes, and you'd have to guess. So you take turns guessing. So those are great ways that you can extend the learning on this. And until I see you on another video, this was super fun sharing this. Here's some pride. Put it inside. And some love for later. Goodbye, super smarties. Come back ready to learn. During the school week would be good. Have a great weekend. I gotta go get ready now for my powwow with my TK tribe. Till later, super teacher.